All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to sit on the webinar hosted by Kraft, Fluid Systems, and Elevate. Really, today's webinar is going to be focused around driving real revenue with IoT. So, Kraft and Elevate, we've been working together for over the past year plus on delivering the solutions to the fluid power market. What we're going to go through here is really showing how the value of taking that machine information, that data with sensors, controls, and HMIs, and getting that information, that raw machine data pumped to the cloud and turn that into human readable data that's really to drive business outcomes. What we've learned over the past number of years is there's a huge opportunity to use that machine data and how the machines are being utilized, how the machines are being maintained in the field, to really provide visibility and drive aftermarket parts and service revenue. So we'll go through that today. Any questions, send to the panel, and I'll try to answer them either during the presentation or at the end. So just a little bit about Elevate itself. So we're a Seattle-based industrial IoT company. We were founded actually inside the industrial manufacturing and fluid power industry. We spun out the separate company in 2015. We work with partners like Kraft, where we provide industrial IoT solutions for the fluid power market to the OEM and fleet partners of ours. We're in downtown Seattle, like I said. We have roughly 12 engineers and 4 or 5 operation and application engineers that support our partners like Kraft. So from a high level, just kind of set the stage. What Elevate really does is it works with Kraft and their engineering team to be able to take that information, the sensors and the controllers and the HMIs, and get that data back up into the cloud through cell phone or Wi-Fi or satellite, and then allow our partners, our OEMs, and our fleet owners to be able to access that information from anywhere in the world. So that can be on their their laptops or their iPads or their phones, whatever that case is. And it's all unique, right? Because all of our customers build different types of machines. They could build pile drivers or street sweepers or bulldozers or mining equipment or augers. And it's really unique to their application, to the sensors and controls that those OEMs have on the machines. And then we make it really easy to deploy that and get that data up and back to our partners without any software programming. So everything's done drop and drag, point and click type scenario. Just to give a little bit of a background, so the Elevate ecosystem, we have a web portal application that allows you to go in, see where your machines are located all over the world, and allows you to look at dashboards and KPIs about how the machine's performing, if it's running outside condition. And then we partner with folks like Kraft, where they're providing the sensors, the controllers, the gateways, the antennas, and they deploy them all different types of machines, from trenchers to trimmers to tensioners, harvesters, cribbers, really machines that have fluid power or electric drive systems on them that are unique, right? They're purpose-built machines for industries. There's a lot of domain expertise from the manufacturer or the industry itself, and they're all designed a little bit different. A lot of our customers might have 7 different types of models of machines, all with different schematics and subsystems and designs. And so they're all the same, but they're all a little different. So we've built everything to be very easily to deploy and look at some of that information. So just give you a little background as well. When we started this, we started in what we commonly refer to as IoT 1.0. That means customers really wanted to kind of get machines connected and start looking at the data on their phones, right? So they want to look at graphs, they want to look at history data, they wanted to look at productivity data, and they wanted it to be unique to their system. This was great because it was the first time that you could get sensors deployed and gateway modems deployed, and it was the first time you get visibility of the machines out in the field. What we learned about that was it wasn't necessarily driving a business outcome. They really became kind of science projects or R&D projects, and a lot of the time didn't move into meaningful impact for our customer. So when we went through this, we really started to talk about, well, if we got all this machine data and it's telling stuff about how the machine's performing, or if it's working in and outside operating parameters, how can we start to use that to help us drive the business more efficiently? And so we're gonna go through this in this presentation. What we started to really focus in on the last number of years is, okay, where is the ROI in IoT? Everyone can deploy technology, and you're seeing all this stuff on TV about IoT, or hearing on the radio, or going to these conferences, talking to these consultants. But we really need to focus on, if this thing's not making money for our partners, it's not going to be deployed on any type of real scale. So the majority of our time that we spend with Kraft, we spend internally, it's talking about the business case, and the technology blends into the background. We want to drive true ROI. So Elevate's objective is, we're not going to solve all problems from everybody. We're going to get really focused. So where we focus is helping our partners increase aftermarket parts and service revenue, reduce their warranty claims, and maximize the lifetime productivity of that machine. So if we stay laser focused on that, that helps us drive our technology roadmap, it helps us drive our solutions, helps us drive our customers into a money-making or money-saving state. So by keeping that in mind, when we go out there and we start working with Kraft and with their customers, we really start to identify where we're trying to add value. And so in our industry, we look at the equipment manufacturer, the OEM, and the equipment owner. And depending on who the solution is for, they really do have different needs and different ROI statements they're trying to achieve. So with the equipment owner, what we find out there, the main buckets are, they're looking to improve safeties of their machines. They're looking to increase the utilization of that machine. Really, what is, how often is it being utilized? How often is the fleet being utilized? And then one step farther is, how do we increase that productivity of the machine? So really early on, we worked with a wood chipping company, and this wood chipper would deliver chips to a pulp mill, and anything under an 85% yield on quality of that wood chip, the pulp mill wouldn't purchase. So they started to put sensors on motors. They started to put sensors on checking to see when the motor torque would increase over time, because that probably resulted in dull blades, which meant the wood chip yield would start to decrease. And so we'd really focus in on that productivity aspect. The benefit to that, though, was by working with the equipment manufacturer, the wood chipping manufacturing company, they now had visibility of when that machine would start to reduce utilization or reduce productivity over time. And it allowed that wood chipper to start selling more parts, because they could start to see that they're not being as high productive or highly utilized as they should be. And so now they can be proactive to start to sell them those really expensive blades that go to chip the wood chippers. It also allowed them to get access into the machine through enhanced services, serviceability. So if machine was acting outside condition, before they had to roll a service truck or put a service person on a plane to fly around the US or the world, they could start looking at that data. They could start determining what the root cause analysis was, or maybe it's an operator issue. Um, a little use case just recently right now, we have a customer in the material handling industry, and they had a pump failure. That pump failure is across the country in Japan. That pump came back to the OEM. They ran some service on it. They think they determined what the root cause analysis was. With the supplier, with the distributor, with the OEM, they're able to pull the historical data and all their connected machines out there over the last 90 days, and they're able to determine that this was more an operator condition environment area than actual anything to do with the supplier or the manufacturer. So, first time in the history of this OEM could pull out 100 pieces of machines data, analyze it all, and see that it was an anomaly on one machine in Japan rather than the machines all around the world. And that tied right into the reduce of the warranty spend, because they could get ahead of it. They could pull that historical information out and look at it, in days rather than in weeks, months, or tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars collectively. So what this means is, when we look at the OEM perspective on how to increase parts and revenue, what we really want to do is look at how's that machine being utilized, how's that machine being maintained, and now provide visibility to the ecosystem and say, I know how the machine's being utilized, I know that it's coming up for maintenance or service, and be able to provide that information to the OEM, to the dealers, their service partners, and be proactive to increase parts and service revenue. So we're going to dive into this. To start with utilization and productivity. So this is really, gives a unique opportunity for our industry now that we have all these sensors and controls starting to be deployed on this machinery. So if we look at something like a berry harvester, this berry harvester, the old way to do utilization might be that the machine's running versus machine's off. And that would tell us how it's being utilized. What we can start is we can actually say, when's the machine being operated and how much time is actual work being performed. So this particular OEM was able to use the sensors that they already have on their control system that's using it to perform work, collect that data with their control systems and their +1 controllers, get it pumped up to Elevate and say, hey, the machine's operating for 336 hours, but it's actually only doing work for 172 hours. The rest of the time, it's actually just idling. And so what was nice about this is we were able to provide real work utilization of that machine in the field. And if we think about it, if the maintenance was actually tied to operating hours, right, how long the machine's being operated, you might not necessarily need to maintain that machine as often. Or if it starts to operate a lot heavier conditions, now you start to get visibility into the real operation of that machine. So when we look at these different machines, to jump to a harvester now, you'll see that what they care about is going to be different than maybe a pile driver or a street sweeper. And so it gives the opportunity now for us to get more intelligent about what work means, what maintenance means, what condition the machine's in, how it's being utilized. All of this, again, is unique to the OEM and the market itself. And I think this is, one of the reasons that we love working with Kraft, is because they're the experts of this, right? They have the controls team, the sensors team, and they work with the OEMs to deploy it. And then we can get that unique data back up here to drive, the maintenance schedules, the utilization, and so forth. So what we end up doing then is we end up working with the OEM and Kraft, and we say, okay, once you get Elevate set up on 1.0 and you're looking at dashboards and you're looking at widgets and sensors, it's fun for about a week. After that, you're not going to log into the app all the time. Really what you're going to want is you're going to want a report sent to you on a daily or weekly basis that tells me how productive are my machines, how are they being utilized, let me know if there's any problems or issues. So we start to build out productivity or utilization reports based on the unique information coming out of your machines. And these reports can be sent to anybody. So a lot of the time we'll work with like service, sales, and engineering to define what information they want to gather and what sensors they need to have, on the machine or collecting data. And then we'll say, who inside your ecosystem do you want these email reports to be sent out, providing visibility now for the first time, visibility that people inside the organization maybe never have had before. So when it goes down, though, this is what the report will look like as it hits the inbox. We can send this in PDFs or it can be sent in CSV files. What we found out is most of our customers actually want the CSV file or the Excel file delivered because they want the raw data. You'll notice at the bottom of this, there'll be a bunch of tabs. We'll show them data with fancy charts and graphs, but they want to be able to take that data, export it, manipulate it, start to analyze it. Again, they're not logging back into Elevate. They're kind of over the dashboards and all the widgets and all that fancy stuff. But now they're getting real information about how their machines are being operated in the field. And they're able to share that information with anybody, with their dealers, with their engineering department, their service department, their parts department, you name it. One of the reasons we try to make this really easy is we don't want any special software IT requirements to make this happen. So we actually give full capabilities to Kraft or the OEMs to come up there and say, what day of the week or how often do you want this report sent to, and who do you want it sent to? It doesn't need to be people that have Elevate login credentials. It can be anybody. So one of the reports, it might sound simple, but one of the most simplest reports we have out there is like fuel level and DEF levels. Customers just want to know what's the fuel level of their machines out there in the fleet or the DEF level, and they get sent out to all their different fleet owners. So stuff that, again, providing visibility from the machine that they haven't had before they've been able to deploy Elevate. So as we're kind of leading in this now, we're going to talk about how this drives parts and service revenue. This is one of the more exciting things about our industry right now is there's so many parts and service revenue that's not being captured by the OEMs currently, that now by getting the machines connected with sensors and controls, getting to understand how the machines are being utilized, we can start to tie that in to be proactive to drive parts and service. So when we look at what we call smart aftermarket parts, is traditionally what we would consider 1.0 is our OEM partners would have a service manual. They would put that manual into their machine, they'd ship it to the customer, and they really rely on that customer to perform the maintenance and service at the suggested intervals, not necessarily knowing when they're going to do it or if they do it. What we call 2.0 is really an IoT connected strategy. This now allows us to know how that machine is being utilized, when it's coming up for maintenance, what work needs to be done, and did that work happen? And then notifying the right people in the ecosystem to say, we have these machines coming up for maintenance. Here's all the parts that need to be purchased for that maintenance to be done. Please contact your customer. And then you can send that same message to your customer saying, hey, you have service coming up. Here is the service manuals digitally. Here's a YouTube video, and here's a quote to order those parts. So we'll walk you through this. It becomes really, really easy. Once you have that machine information configured and it's inside Elevate, all those fancy graphs and stuff, you're able to set some notifications to that data. So now we can give an advance warning when a part needs to be replaced, right? We know that a service is coming up and air filters or fuel filters or maybe blades to a wood chipper are going to be replaced. Send that notice to the OEM, send that notice to the dealer, send that notice to the end customer. When you send that email or text message notice, you can attach to it through Elevate a quote. It can be a quote with the part number and the pricing. You can also send an email to the OEM to say, we just delivered a quote to the customer, follow up and try to capture that aftermarket part sales. And then you just make it easy for the customer to place the order. So Elevate's not disrupting any of the normal business processes. What we're doing is we're getting people inside your ecosystem the right information at the right time for them to be proactive. We'll go through this a little bit more. So the way this works is, if you recall on the first slides, we had all the dashboards and with all the information from the sensors and the geolocation and stuff. Now what we start to do is we start to enter in the operator's manual digitally inside Elevate. So what work needs to be done when, at what hour intervals, or what condition state. This is a dashboard that can be emailed directly to your organization, or it can be accessed to the app. This gives you your fleet health. How many machines are overdue for maintenance? How many are coming up? What's the reminders, and so forth. So it kind of gives you a visibility from a high-level management perspective on what does my fleet status look like out there. You know, again, this becomes pretty powerful once you have these sensors connected up and sending data to the cloud. You can get more information and more specific and intelligent information than ever before. If we go down here, this would be another report where it's going to show you have these machines that are overdue or upcoming. You have 28 of your assets are what we consider in a healthy state, so no conditions firing off. Their maintenance is up to date. You might have 3 assets that are overdue for maintenance and 14 that are upcoming. So now we're starting to show you visibility of how many machines are coming up for maintenance. Again, this can be accessed either through the web portal, or this can be emailed to you in a report. So you can just wake up in the morning and look at your PDF and get a general idea of the health of your machine. So what's interesting now is we've started to upload parts into Elevate. So we've worked with our customers to start to say, we want to tie to those maintenance reminders, those maintenance schedules, what components need to be sold, and then what the value of those components are, what the part numbers are. So when a machine hits 500 hours, or maybe it's 400 hours of a service maintenance at number 500, we can start emailing this information out to you and your dealers or your end customers to say to order this information. So again, we're just taking it one step farther, right? We got the sensors. The sensors are sending information up to the cloud. We're showing that information on dashboards, on widgets and graphs. Now we've started to provide that in fleet health reports. And now we're starting to get you to upload your components and your part numbers and your prices for your components. The next step where this really starts to provide really good insight and allows you to be super proactive is we take that machine data that we've just configured, we configure it in the Elevate maintenance engine, we provide an actionable alert to it saying when it hits 400 hours, attach a quote to it and send that quote to what we call an intelligent lead. So depending on how your organization's strategy is to sell more parts and services, maybe that comes directly to the OEM and they manage all those leads and they let their dealers know, or let their end users know that they have maintenance coming up and here's the parts to order. Or maybe you configure it so that intelligent lead goes both to the OEM and the dealer network. Again, this starts to become the first time ever knowing that there's a real need in the field with a piece of machine coming up for maintenance or service, and being able to send information to the right people inside your ecosystem. So when we look at this, we can say, okay, now it's going to be the intelligent leads. So at 500 hours or 6 months, send an alert. You can send it to the customer. You can send it to the parts warehouse. You can send it to the dealer. Once you get that going, we start to produce what's called a smart forecast. So now this is, I have 100 machines out there, and out of the 100 machines, 90 of them are coming up for 500 hours of service. Here's the part numbers, here's the quantity that needs to be ordered, and we can build forecasts out of this. So again, providing that insight about what's going to be happening based on where the machine's being utilized today. So knowing the machine is at 400 hours of operation, and at 500 hours, they need to change these parts, I can start to be proactive to sell my customers those parts and services. So where we are right now is we're starting to provide these forecasts on what's needed near term and in the future with our customers. So what this looks like is you have your fleet of your machines out there. You have your scoreboard that tells you how many assets are overdue for maintenance, how many assets are due soon, how many reminders, what's the fleet health. But then to the right here, you really start looking at what's my active hours, what's my downtime hours, what's my forecasted maintenance, and what's my forecasted parts revenue for those machines. How many parts can I sell them? And again, this is provided either through the app or through a report that you can get through your email. This, imagine waking up and seeing, 100 machines in the field, 500 machines in the field, whatever that number is, and knowing exactly where they are on their timeline to be maintained, what parts need to be replaced and what service needs to be done in that window, and now being proactive to either calling the customers or your dealers or emailing them and driving that business back up through your sales channels rather than a third party or MRO company. And then the way we look at it when we work with Kraft and we work with their partners, we really want to look at the ROI impact, right? There's a cost associated to this, and we need to make sure that we're driving ROI. What we have found is most OEMs on the total sales revenue for an organization, about 4% of that comes from aftermarket parts and services. Most of our customers that we work with have corporate initiatives to get that to 10%. They want 10% of overall sales to be driven by aftermarket parts and service revenue. So we work closely with them to get to that business objective. So when we sit down with our partners, we run through pretty complex value calculators, but I just made it pretty simple for this presentation. We look at what's that machine price, what's that annual units for the sale, what's the total revenue for the OEM, and where are they currently in their aftermarket parts sales. We want to put a baseline in on this, and then we want to track it over the next year or two on how can we help you guys reach to go from a growth of 4% to 10%. This is where we spend most of our time with the leadership inside companies is, okay, if your initiative is to 10% parts and service sales, if you could have any piece of information on that machine out there that helps you drive sales. So if we go back to that wood chipper, example I spoke about, those blades on that wood chipper are $10,000 blades. So by providing some simple sensors on the motor and watching that torque increase over time, we could start to determine when that blade would start to dull. When that blade starts to dull, send me an email message to let me know that I should follow up with my customer to sell them those 10,000 blade packages, keeping their productivity high, and for the OEM being able to capture that blade revenue. And then driving it from, on this example, an $800,000 annual of parts and service revenue to a $2 million, annual parts and service revenue. And then we really look at what's that 10-year, or that 5-year revenue impact with them. What does it mean long term? Because now the OEM and the dealers are connected to their customer longer than just maybe the initial warranty period or whatever the case is. They can build a really long-term relationship saying, we're going to keep your machines in the highest productivity, lifetime productivity, and we're going to be able to be your trusted supply chain by getting visibility of when the machines are going to be maintained, what their productivity levels are, the utilization levels. But it drives real revenue over a 5-year plan. So, if you can increase it up that $2 million range, that 10%, by year 5, you're pumping about 10 million bucks a year in new revenue out there. This is where majority of our time is spent with our partners. It's really saying we have the technology, we have the sensors, we have the cloud, we have the IoT, but how do we really focus on making sure that we're hitting those ROI objectives, and we're helping reach your parts and service strategy and revenue goals over the next 5 years. With that concludes the webinar. It's very, very high level. There's a lot of details to this. I'd encourage everybody that attended that if you want to know more information, to reach out to Kraft. We can set up a call and really kind of walk through the details, walk through a demo of the platform and the system, and how we can help achieve the goals to increase the aftermarket parts and service revenue. With that, I'll open up to any Q&A questions that the group might have. If you have any questions, use the Q&A panel on the Zoom meeting and type it in, and then I can answer them. So I just asked if we're going to share the slides. Yeah, I will. Scott Durant will have the slides, and he can share them with anybody that asks with it. How many OEM customers we're working with? We're working with a little bit over 100 now. I think it's about 110 last month. So we're pretty much SMB. Most of our customers are anywhere from 10 machines to 1,000 machines a year. Right in there. We have a lot more details. As asked to show the slides on math 29, or the math on slide 29. We have a lot more detailed value calculator that when we work with your teams, we can walk through that. Yeah, so our system, so they both. So our system works on vehicles. They also work inside the plant and Wi-Fi. So we work with the different buses. So CAN bus, Mod bus. We work with NEMA 2000. Works over Wi-Fi. Absolutely. Support people in the field. There's now 5 of us that work with our distributors. Our main focus is really to train the distributors and support the distributors, have them work with the OEMs. We also have a unique scenario that when we work with an OEM, our partner, we actually give them access into a subset of our engineering team, so they can talk to them through messaging apps like Slack. And it really helps with the onboarding process and the communication as well as we get going. Yeah, so the question is, Adam, can you go over the data stream and sampling times to have a better understand the data rates and how it's affected if they just simply once in a while or constantly? Yeah, absolutely. So one of the unique things with Elevate, and this is, this would be a more of a detailed presentation at some point, but one of the detailed things is we actually compress all the data on the gateway device to ones and zeros before we start sending it over to the cell phone networks. So what that means is we're about 1/10 the payload, the same cost as other telematic systems out there. So obviously, the more data logging you do. So if you're looking at something every 50 milliseconds, pressure compared to something every 1 minute, there will be a different data cost associated with it. We have a data calculator to help you guys figure that out, but we are about 1/10 the payload overhead of the competitor platforms out there. We do a lot of other interesting things to allow for edge filtering and different analytics on the edge too. So it'd be great to set up a kind of a detailed presentation on that, because it's one of our value benefits that we don't talk about enough, but it does make us unique for the heavy machine market. Do the sensors record when no cell phone or Wi-Fi is available? Yes, they do. So if there's no Wi-Fi service or cell phone, we log all the data locally on the gateway, and then when we make a connection, we start to take that data and put that data back up into the Elevate cloud. Um, Yeah, so Buck asked if we wanted to mention a project that Carl's working on with dispatching. So one of the ways that we take this to a whole nother level is when customers want to start doing smart invoicing and smart job costing, we can take that machine data on what's being produced, right? So how much part of it, maybe a particular content is being produced to a customer, if that's the wood chipping, if that's concrete, if that's feed mix, whatever that is. And we take that machine data and we can build a specific report for them on, I went to this location, I produced this much work, and I delivered it to this customer between this time. So when we really start to look at what's important to your end customers, we can work closely with Kraft, with you guys, with your end customer, and deliver a really intelligent report for them. Are you currently monitoring machines in other countries? We are. So we're in Europe, all over Europe. We're in the Middle East, so Dubai, India. We are in Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and we're down in South America. Maximum number of sensors per unit. Yeah, that's really, it's really by the CAN bus, by the control system itself. The gateway that we use, it's an 800 megahertz gateway, so it has a tremendous amount of compute power. The limitation is going to be more about the controllers and buses that you have on the machine itself. So, we have one of our oil and gas customers has like 150 sensors or data points, I guess, that they have on the machine coming from the engine, the transmission, the hydraulic systems, everything. And then we have customers that are as low as like 5 or 6 sensors. Most of our OEMs fall right in that 30 to 50 like kind of sensor or data point range if it's coming off the engine or the transmission or something. Yeah, great questions. Any other questions from the group? Perfect. Well, I will. I'll package up this presentation and I'll send it over to Scott. Um, um, and then if you guys or any of your customers have any follow-up questions, or if they want to jump on a follow-up web conference, we can really dive into the details of their application, of Elevate itself, and everything. So thank you. Have a great day, everybody.